Welcome to Soul Science, the official podcast of Sports and Exercise Podiatry Australia. We're your hosts, Pat and John, both dedicated sports podiatrists with a passion for advancing our profession. In each episode, we delve into the latest research, share compelling stories from clinicians, and feature special guests who've made meaningful contributions to the field of sports and exercise podiatry and lower limb sports medicine. John Charles, how are you, mate?
Pretty good. We're had a busy day at work. I hear things have been pretty busy up in Canberra. Um, Melbourne's ticking along down here. We've got plenty of sports action going on with cricket season started, and yeah, lots of triathlons happening at the moment. So that's been my focus.
Exciting time of year. Can I read you the weather from 5:42 a.m. this morning, John?
Oh
It was
well, and you're going to, so yes.
it was 2.3 degrees, but felt like 0.3
Oh, well, that's a warm day in Canberra, yeah? A warm morning
for November as well.
for November. There you go.
Um, okay, let's step right into it. Today, by introduction, we'll welcome Sam Turner, a leading sports and exercise podiatrist with dual qualifications as both a podiatrist and orthotist. Based in Melbourne at Life Performance Sports Medicine, Sam has built his expertise around orthotic design, footwear, and high performance sport, particularly football. His passion for biomechanics and his deep understanding of orthotic prescription and modification have allowed him to bridge the gap between clinical podiatry and the application to elite athlete biomechanics and performance. Sam is the consultant podiatrist for Western United Football Club's men's and women's A-League teams, as well as North Melbourne Football Club across the AFL, AFLW, and VFLW. His extensive work with elite footballers give him unique insight into the demands of sport, footwear considerations, and injury prevention strategies. Today, we dive into his journey, his expertise in orthotics and football biomechanics, and his approach to integrating podiatry into high-performance sport. Please welcome Sam Turner.
Welcome, Sam.
G'day, gents.
How are you, mate?
I'm good, lads. How about you? How's your day?
Not too bad. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Sam, let's kick things right off. What does sports and exercise podiatry mean to you?
Oh, yeah, good question. It is such an incredible part of our profession, and it's incredibly growing. And I don't think it gives enough in terms of what we see. Like in terms of what sport, the first thing that comes to mind is elite sport, but it's not really that. It incorporates everything, say from your weekend warrior to your kid who's just starting off and playing into their first pair of boots or starting to make their way into the world. It's such a big part of what podiatry is and should be. Like we've gone a bit beyond cutting toenails and starting to make our way through that. But really, we're seeing people who move. And that's the key part for me with about sports and exercise. It's just not having a look at those key parts, but rather it's having a look at, okay, getting people up and moving, getting them back to what they want to be able to do.
Sam, you built your career between podiatry and orthotics, particularly in sports. Tell us how did you get into podiatry and what was your career like beforehand?
Yeah. Good question, Patty. As you know, I initially started off as prosthetics and orthotics. And I got into that because of one person who's probably a little bit on the nose. It was a bloke who used to run with blades and could run a pretty impressive 400. And So we won't mention him by name, but it was about that time where I wanted to work with Paralympians and I wanted to start to get into blade technology. So I went across and did P&O as my first degree, but then I found myself getting more drawn to the orthotic side of parts. So what I really got into was high risk foot, surprisingly enough. So the big part with that was how to keep people from losing toes and using footwear, using orthotics and different types of offloading bits that you could go, oh, this was pretty cool. But I ended up going to New Zealand for a year and working in a private practice over in Hamilton. So for all the NZ podiatrists, like the Tron is a fantastic place. But I fell in with a pretty unruly bunch of podiatrists. And one was Lee Clark and the other one was Andrew Jones, who took me under my wing on the first night and said, oh, come on, let's start getting involved with this. And I actually spent a lot more of my time shadowing podiatrists whilst I was there. And I went, oh, this is pretty fun. Like maybe I should go do podiatry. So after a year, I've got sick of missing home and I've decided to go back to uni. And I initially thought I wanted to go into high risk foot, but then I found that I don't like foot wounds all so much anymore. But I really like the orthotic side of things and how you can start to rehab a foot. And with that, I went back to uni. And from there, it's just been something that's blossomed. I started as a generalist. So up in Kilmore and Wallen, but then I had the opportunity to go work with Arta over at Footwork. And that was probably one of the biggest orthotic learning curves that I've ever had. And if anyone has the opportunity to go sit in with an orthotics lab, even if it's just for a day, it's probably one of the best things you can do as a pod in general, but as well as someone who wants to work in sports.
Oh, so you're uniquely qualified, I guess, as a orthotist and podiatrist.
Yes.
Um, how does those kind of experience in those fields shape your work?
So probably the big thing that I took from orthotics was not to overcomplicate things. Like again, it's having a look at how you can take something so simple like foot orthosis and have a look at, okay, how do we do the most amount of impact with the least amount of material, which is quite an interesting one. Because again, it has to fit inside a shoe. Someone has to wear it because you can make the world's best and most fabulous device. But if it's not going to fit into the footwear that we provide, it's not going to work. But again, it taught me, like a lot of people that you see in orthotics, especially with high end, is that you don't have to take yourself so seriously. Like it's a lot of fun and you can get through and you can change someone's day with something so simple.
Sam,
Awesome.
Sam, before we move on to your experience in football, let's talk more about your experience with orthotics and biomechanics. Obviously, you're obviously quite a good prescriber and you thoroughly understand the context from an orthotist background and a podiatrist background. I know these days we've got 3D printing, we've got poly, we've got EVA, we've got carbon fiber. Give us the lowdown on the justifications or your sort of perspective on using each. And do you have a preference, or is it still like, the science and art is still not there to kind of use everything?
Well, yeah, it's a big thing. It sort of comes down to the person and like you can fit like in a general bit of speaking, like you can see which person you want to have a lot more, where you want to provide a lot more force. Personally, I love using EVA. Like that's what I've grown up on. That's probably what I've worked a lot with. And I find that I can get quite fantastic results with being able to get a dual-sided milled device that works incredibly well. And I find that patient's comfort is probably a lot higher than what it used to be. But again, I still really love a good old-fashioned poly device. Like they still work in ways that you can trust and you can bend it and you can probably have a lot of faith in it. I find, unfortunately, with a lot of the new 3D printing, that it's still not there. It's they're doing fantastic work, and what Kent is doing up at QOL in terms of what he's doing with the different devising and different thicknesses is fantastic, and using different geo shapes. But the whole part is what I find is when you stick on an external or an intrinsic stabilizer, it does start to fracture at that point a lot higher.
Why is that?
So, like, if we go with simple physics, it comes down to where you increase force on one side and it becomes a fulcrum as the foot starts moving over it. Whereas the old poly device, it used to be completely one block. But what happens when you design a 3D print, and probably the labs are going to come at me after this, is essentially you make the shell, then you stick on the next little element. So with that, it becomes a lot harder. I will still use 3D print and I'm still a big fan, and it was fantastic to see when that started to come out a lot more with orthotech and footwork, and even with QOL and orthotics. It was fantastic. But again, I found that I wasn't getting some of the results with it because it should work pretty well, but I was finding that they wear down quite quickly. And the other part was, Pat, I'm getting a bit older in this game. I'm becoming a bit more of a lazy podiatrist, where I know that's quite silly, but we want to obviously look after tissue and heal tissue and have a biomechanical effect. But is that often done at the detriment to someone's comfort?
That's a very
If
good
that
point.
makes sense. Like
Yeah.
if someone's going to be comfortable and they're going to walk through and they're going to be able to participate in their day-to-day thing, are they able to play 90 minutes of football or 120 minutes of Aussie rules or even 80 minutes with rugby, but they're comfortable and they're feeling good and they're not reporting high pain measures? Are we still doing the right thing, even though sometimes we might not have had the right device that's 16 degrees hind foot with rear foot posting and it's an pure mid inverted? Like,
Mm,
you
Yeah,
think that rather than go, okay, if we can get the same effect with less, we can improve comfort because that's going to have a bearing on terms of performance.
that's a great approach. And obviously, you've learned from some of the best minds when it comes to orthotic prescription. What are the kind of biggest misconceptions you still see in your practice when it comes to the use of orthotics?
So that comes from a lot of different things. Like when I hear the thing of arch support, that makes my skin crawl. And a
Mostly
lot.
patients will say that, right?
Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll throw the physios under the bus. Like it's early in the podcast, so we might as well throw some physios on. But they'll say, "Oh, just a little bit of arch support."
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like anything you can put a beanbag under someone's foot and it'll still support the arch, but that's not why we prescribe orthotics. It's not the reason why we prescribe shoes. Like essentially, they're there to shift load from one part of the foot to another part of the foot, hopefully in a therapeutic and beneficial way. Like that's essentially what an orthosis starts to work through. We can get into the minutiae and we can have a look at calc declination angles and prior aspects of what subtalar joint range works. But again, if we keep it pretty simple, like we're going to work in a pretty good way. So for me, that's probably the big thing is like it's still about arch support. It's still about correction. I had someone in today. Oh, if I have orthotics, will you fix my feet? Will you make them straight? Will you make them no longer flat? And you go, oh, years of genetics and you're now 42. Like I'm not really going to change bony morphology. Like
Mm.
these are the things that we still have to deal with. And you have a look at some of the best runners or some of the best footballers in the world, and they've got feet like pancakes.
Yeah.
So no matter what orthotic you're going to put under there, is it going to have a therapeutic benefit? Is it going to have a performance gain? Is it going to make them run faster? You go, probably not. Let's work on exercise. Let's work on strengthening. Let's keep it pretty simple.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sam, you have a strong focus on football. You've worked across multiple codes, AFL, A-League, and much more. What sort of foot and ankle demands do you see between, I guess, let's go AFL and soccer. What do you see are the core foot demands, and how does that impact, I guess, your contribution and research direction with developing football boots?
Yeah. So like we'll often see similar type of aspects, like both professions for starters, both will get blisters. Like that's like I probably spend half my time discussing blisters and what causes blisters. And like going back to the work by Beck Rushton and what she's done with Doug Ritchie. And you keep on going back to that, but people still use second skins and like all these weird and wonderful things. And you go, that doesn't work. But I'll see blisters as a common thing between both. But when we're starting to have a look at different aspects, I'll find a lot more Achilles, like in Aussie rules at the moment, especially in the start of preseason.
Yeah.
Whereas with soccer players, I actually won't find a lot of mid portion type work. I'll find a lot of like a retro calc bursa, but even a superficial calc irritation. And that's probably a big thing. And that comes down to the different styles of what a traditional soccer boot is compared to what an Aussie rules boot. The other one is like we see a fair few Jones fractures in terms of what we have with soccer. And it comes down to what's happening with the curved run. Often soccer players will wear a boot that's far too small, and it's to get that perception of touch.
Mm,
But in Aussie rules, on the flip side, I'll find will have a lot more medial aspects. Like it's a lot more potential stress responses, like around that medial column, but as well as around sesamoids. So it's about working out potentially why this happens. And I'll see it a lot more in, say, AFLW players or VFLW players, especially around the sesamoids. And I'm trying to work out, is it the type of boots that we're using? Is it training loads? There's lots of things in there that really go into the pathology. But part of what we're trying to think about is that our women's players actually don't have boots that will suit them in terms of a length. We'll talk about length first. Like the smallest that most boots will go to is a size 7 US. Like there's only 2 in the ASICS range, which is a testimonial and the blend. They'll go down to a size 5. But for players who don't use that because they're quite voluminous,
Yeah, sure.
Your foot's going to start to move around. So these are the things that I'm starting to look with. So that's what we're thinking about, what might be causing sesamoid ones. But like it's stud length, like that's another one. Like most of our W players will start to grind down studs because they're built on still a male production shape. Like there's still 14 mil at the back, 12 mil at the front, or 13 and 11, and that may be too much.
Yeah.
But really, when we go into men, like we'll talk AFL men's, like it's just a weird and wonderful bunch. You can see anything. Like it's such an interesting one, but they're starting to follow a lot more of the soccer trend. They're wearing a lot more Tiempos again. They're wearing a lot more Pumas. I've even spotted some Mizunos these days, and they'll wear these a little bit tighter.
Is that correlating with Achilles, or you don't think there's a correlation with that?
I think by going tighter on the superficial aspects, potentially, but again, their training loads are huge.
Yeah.
And like it can be more akin to that zero drop type of boot that may be causing it. But the other part is a lot of these boots are becoming stiffer. So these players are now starting to run a lot more on the forefoot, spending a lot more time up into a bit more of a plantar flex position. And they're nearly like the Mercurial 16 by Nike is almost like a running spike in terms of it. Like Addy had this, what was it, the speed portal from last year. That was almost like it had a toe spring nearly at 15 degrees. So people are just being pushed up. So it's hard to say. And like if you're pointing your finger at it, it's a long bow, but it can be a contributing factor.
Yeah. You've mentioned a fair few footy boots there. What are your most common issues you see when trying to manage the boot with the players that you're working with?
So, like in terms of say the professional stuff, it's sponsorship is a big one. Like again, like if someone's contracted to Puma and say the Future 8, which is notoriously narrow through the midfoot, and this person's got a size really should be in a 4E fitting. It's about trying to find those easy fits and how do we can work with that. Because easy thing would be, okay, let's change brand. Like, let's go get something wider. Like, let's get you into a New Balance 442 Pro, which is like a 2E fitting. Like, we're not going to make it away to a 6E because that's near impossible for a footy boot unless you're 3D printing, which Diana Palin's doing. But you can't really change. The other one is just that perception of what a football boot can do. They have to look cool and they have to be able to have to look cool, but they also have to fit the aesthetic a little bit. And that's hard to get through. And you go, mate, you've been in this boot. It's causing all these issues. Let's get you out of it. But they say, but it's not in white. Like we had one, or can you just get me a pair of simple black boots? Do you know how hard it is to find an all black boots at the moment? Everything's so fancy and bright. And some players go, I just want to wear black. So you feel like just giving him a Sharpie and telling him to go around.
There's Instagram for you.
But yeah, there's lots of little things, but probably professionally it's sponsorship.
Yeah. But
locally it comes down to what marketing does for boots. You got someone who says, oh, I'll only wear Nike. But you go, your feet don't fit into them. They're not working well with you, but I can only wear Nike. Heaven forbid I try and put a pair of Adidas on. Or you've got this Achilles issue. Like, why don't we get you into a Swift Strike? Like, just for training, like play in your boots, but let's get you into a Swift Strike for your recovery on
Mm,
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday night. Then Saturday, go wear your performance boots.
mm.
Like at least let's compromise along these lines.
That's fantastic. Sam, as the consultant podiatrist for Western United Football Club and North Melbourne Football Club in the AFL, I guess what are the challenges that you have as a podiatrist working in those sorts of environments, and have you pioneered any ways of kind of getting sports and exercise podiatry more involved?
So yeah, big one with Western. We're probably on, well, you probably heard the news. We're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. So it's quite funny. Most of the medical team from there have shifted across to Avondale in
Hmm.
the national second tier. So we've completely uprooted all our medical team. But again, it's taken time. Like I started at Western when it was, mate, we just need someone to come trim some calluses and do some blisters. And that it's unglamorous, it's non-sexy type work. And that was even before I could talk to players about boots or start to speak about rehab or really get involved with medical type meetings, where I just had to take my time. But then they would say, well, the best one was when they've run out of ideas. Do you have any? Then you get one right. And you go, well, that's simple. It's not a wart, it's a corn. Or actually think that's a, like, let's stiffen up the outside of the boot. Then you can start to build. But the big one for me was with football was just communication. It's being elite with that. So there's no simple tricks or there's no magic wand that you can wave, but it was just about being approachable, but also giving advice, but knowing when to back off. Because half the time you're looking and go, well, someone's got plantar heel pain. Why aren't you coming to me until it's too late? Oh, they'll go, oh, they've had it for 12 weeks, but I'm the last part of the line. Whereas with footy's been a bit of a different one where I've had to take over from an incumbent. So there was already a pre-existing podiatry aspect, but then it's putting my own spin. And my big one was with this, I had to know more about footwear than what anyone else has at the club. I have to know more about blisters. And the thing that is, like, the players will come to me for foot strength and rehab with that. So consultants type work, like, let's have a look. Can we get you doing heavy strength resistance with big toe work? Or how do we work on getting a lot more of that midfoot strength so we can stabilize? It's not going to decrease injury, but, or it's actually going to decrease injury, but it's not going to increase performance. But it means that you're going to get less injured.
Mm.
So, and that was the thing where I had to learn, like almost like a physio around the areas of the foot, was to know that in and out better than anyone else. But also being happy to part with information, but really knowing when to step back and go, okay, like I don't want to get too involved and staying within my lane. So this year's my second year with North. And like, again, we have had testing today. We've got 4 days of screening coming up. We've got 2 with the younger lads, and we've got 2 with the older lads. And it's really getting involved with that. And then just being able to go in and be able to talk medical meeting type work.
What does a screening sort of look like for preseason, and then do you have other checkpoints within as preseason comes on, and then towards in season?
Yeah. So with Aussie rules this year, we can, again, it's pretty simple. Like my big one and our focus is getting the footwear right. We'll still have players who will wear the same pair of boots for 6 months, training and game day, and they're doing 30K weeks in boots.
Hmm.
So what we'll find, and like this is parts from Michael Kinchington, like footy boots will really only last you maybe 200 to 250K. Like they don't have that EVA midsole that we can rely upon, or they've got this fancy blown out foam that you can go, well, that might last us 450, like, which is the Nova Blast. Or like if you got a really decent Hoka Bondi, that can last you 1000K.
Mm.
It's an absolute workhorse. Whereas a lot of our football boots don't have a midsole. Essentially, it is a TPU sole plate attached onto a little bit of material. Then it's an upper, like with a sock liner there. And then we're doing 30K, and we're expected to do high speed running, expected to do everything, change direction, tackle, pick up the ground, kick a ball. And we're finding that it's about coming back to footwear. Like the big thing probably from today, and a bit of a trade secret, is that we're finding players aren't rotating boots enough. Like a boot like a running shoe. Like we can look at someone in clinic, go, oh, that shoe's dead. That might be an issue. Like again, you bend it and you turn it and you go, well, that's not going to be doing anything. Like let's actually change this. So my big focus is on footwear. It's on runners. What can they do in gym? Like Puma have been really lovely to give out the Mag Maxes. Like they're 45 mil worth of stack. Like they're barely legal. And guys are doing weight training in them.
Mm.
And it's about probably stamping that out and going, wow, let's actually set up a really good footwear protocol with this. But it's hard with blown out foams. And there's nothing like your old Kayano 28, which had that really low base and low stack, and you could really go back to it. Or like the original GT 2000s. Like you could do more of your football specific type work. But a screening for me is pretty much footwear. Like a lot of the other stuff, calf endurance, like muscle strength comes from the physios. But it's how do we get the boots right? How do we get their runners right? How do we get their lifting shoes really dialed in? If they need orthotics, I do a really big derm part, like picking out hot spots. Like this is where you're getting blistering. Because the big part is if we get on top of it the first week of preseason, and this was the same with soccer, where if we get on top of it early, it becomes more cost effective for the club.
Yeah.
Not having to deal with stuff where people dread putting on footwear. And you see all these weird and wonderful ways that people slap on second skins and not even fasten it, or they'll do it with rigid sports tape, and they wonder why this blisters keeps on coming back every season upon season.
Mm.
Western, we had a percentage where we had out of a squad of 33, only 17 got blisters. But we got on top of it early, and 83% of the squad did not have blisters.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
And that was coming from the initial season where we had the actual inverse, where 83% of the squad had blisters.
Mm.
So that's the big thing. And that, like, if people want to get into sports podiatry, you have to get really good at your derm. Like, we still see corns, we still see callus. They're all mechanically induced. Blisters, it's shearing of skin. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on that, but you can do a lot with that, and you can work with orthotics in the same thing.
That's awesome.
So,
So when you're working with elite sports people, generally how in tune are they with their footwear choices, and are footy players prone to just wearing whatever they're sent in the post?
depends on the person. Like, again, a lot of the old brigade have been doing it for years. Like, there's a reason why they've been playing footy for 16 years.
Yeah.
They know that the feet are tools of the trade. Like, they do everything right. They will look after the callus. They'll get into the right boots. They'll wear runners. Like, they're not slipping into a pair of Crocs when they've got injury. They will actually do everything that's asked of them. But it comes down to, say, some of the young brigades, they come through TAC Cup or some of the junior things where actually a lot of that information is missed. I've worn the same pair of boots forever. Oh, have you ever been fitted? I've been given a set of formies and I haven't changed them for 3 years. Yeah, well, they're not doing anything. They're like crepe paper in your foot, in your boot. Or I've had to go up 3 sizes to fit this orthotic in. Like, it's probably more that younger brigade that gets missed. It's not until they get into a professional setting where you go, actually, let's start rotating your runners. Oh, you've got a set of orthotics. Let's get a new set. Let's reassess. Are they still working? Oh, I had them when I was 14. I'm now 18. And I had them when I was a size 12. I'm now a size 16. You go, well, mate, how did you get through? Oh, I just never checked. I've just always had them. So that's probably the big one. It's probably the timing. And it's a lot of that. How would I say? What's the word? It's a lot of that early education or lack of education. And that's coming from coaches. That's coming from parents. That's coming from everyone else in the industry that might not be attuned to it. And they're pretty good and they get there from elite talent alone. But then they get into this big system and they go, well, I've had the same pair of boots for 2 years. They're falling apart. What do I do? You go, well, okay. What else do you feel on? Oh, nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, you mentioned obviously with some of the football AFL footballers, they can get up to like 30Ks a week, or maybe sometimes more, right? And boots may not last, the durability of most commercially available runners these days. Is the science there yet where we don't have much inside a boot? Should we like prophylactically or proactively be, milling out some foam EVA devices that are morphological but not corrective per se, just to increase some of contact and volume in a boot, just to minimize load during preseason and in season?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, probably haven't would be worthwhile trialing, but it comes down to the player.
Yeah.
Again, if there's nothing wrong, like they're still comfortable, they're highly functional, they're making their way through. So what are we actually treating? Like, we will use some players if they've gone from a big chunky shoe into nothing,
Hmm.
we might chuck in a heel race to try and decrease that. But as to use something that's just going into the shoe for potential prophylactic aspect, like it's hard. Like, we're almost treating this almost reactionary.
Sure.
Like, again, like if they've got high peak force in one area, are we actually going to treat that if there's no issue? Like, are we trying to create something out of nothing? Like, it's a hard.
Yeah.
So it would be great if we could. It would be everything fine tuned, really tweaked. There's no issues. Almost like what we do with cycling shoes, Paddy. Like, you pop something in and you go, oh, this feels really good. But it's a little bit different with, say, footy. Like, we're not just going to be sitting in one condition for so long. Like, are we going to make it for sprinting? Are we going to make it for stop starting? Like, is it going to be when you're doing 360 drills? Like, these are the parts, because sessions will be very different.
Awesome.
I would like to do
Right.
that. It'd be fantastic, but there's some pretty cool stuff happening. I won't give away, but something like that did happen within an AFL setting. Not at my club, but where they were dosing an orthotic every couple of weeks,
Mm.
where a player had a history of stressies. And like, they would tweak this orthotic or get it milled out really quickly, and they would wear it for 2 weeks. But then, because they would shift load into a different spot, they would then tweak another orthotic. So they're almost dosing a device on the fly to be able to get this player through a season. I think this player ended up with about 6 or 8 pairs of orthotics, which is phenomenal. I don't know if I've ever heard of anything like that. I don't know, not sure if you guys have, but that's pretty impressive in terms of what you can do. And that's incredible backing by the club to enables a podiatrist to do that.
Awesome. Well, let's get on to the tech and tools spotlight as you our gateways to innovation. You've worked extensively in orthotic manufacturing and fitting. Are there any game-changing technologies that have improved how you design and fit orthotics?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of in-shoe pressure. Like, I find that actually helps
Same
me.
here.
Like, I like seeing that interaction between the foot and the shoe. Like, and that's the key part. Like, you have to have the foot, the shoe, and the foot orthosis all working in harmony for a really good result. But in-shoe pressure gives me that ability to have a look at, okay, this is great for me to maybe, let's change that dome a little bit. Let's work on, okay, let's have a bit more of a focus on like a Morden's toe, extend it out a little bit and drop it back behind the first. It gives me a good idea that I can start to test, but only then start to retest what's worked. So again, basing on comfort and what's happening, but then I can go, okay, have a look at this. We have shifted pressure from this to this. Has it worked? Has my hypothesis really been proven? Like, okay, this is working really well. For me, that's probably my big one. And even lately, I'm starting to come back and recording how people are moving in gait. Like, how do we slow it down? Like, the new technologies and the cameras, and really starting to have a look at how AI can work with our gait analysis. Like, I don't know if you've been getting into it, but we've been playing around with is it Oki? That's been a lot of fun, just seeing how that can move, and then how we can start to get into higher level ones, like at SEPA the other year, how you can have that motion capture with only
Yeah.
2 iPhones. Like, that's amazing. Like, you can have a gait lab that you can have a look at, and you can have these simple bits where you can have a look at, okay, well, actually, if I do this with an orthotic, does that change the knee moment?
Mm.
Like, how cool is that?
How
Like,
quickly can you go from test to data to integration to your notes and then thoroughly explain it to your patient within that consultation? Can you run us through that process and what that looks like?
so again, like playing around with the AI, it's still a little bit clunky.
Yep.
Going back to the real one, like where I'll use an in-shoe pressure system, like it's within moments. Like we can compare sites, we can compare interventions. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, let's try these shoes. So if we've gone into like a Brooks Adrenaline, okay, let's put this, but you really want to go into a Ghost Max 3. Okay, let's try this. Let's get you across 10-meter walkway. Let's get you calibrated. Let's have a really big look. And we can probably get that within a couple of minutes. Like we can start to say, look at this comparison between here. Can you see this? Can you see how it's starting to push up onto your big toe and the Ghost Max? Whereas over in the Adrenaline, see how you're potentially loading a little bit more laterally. Like this is the reason why we're going for this shoe. Or, okay, we'll test initially. Here's a biomechanical, put you in, get you in the shoe, have a look, get that feedback. Like it doesn't take long. And the other part with in-shoe, I can take it anywhere. I'll
Yeah.
take it to the football club. Then I can get that feedback and I can get someone running over 30 meters. Then, okay, let's put this pad in quickly. Then we can test it again. Then we can compare it. Then we can compare it again. Okay, which one felt better, this one or this one? And they went, great. Okay, well, we can have a look at the data. Did it increase force? Did it change force? Did it change timing of that force? And again, it's been a good tool to have a look at, okay, do hokers work really well for post-forefoot surgery? Like,
Yeah.
that's a way that we can start to have a look. So for me, that's probably been the biggest game changer. The other one is I'm playing around with scanning technology and seeing what we can get. Like, is there a difference between a partial weight bearing, like crash box type thing, compared to what we can do on the phone, compared to like the old Dalcam scanners? So that's probably the next bit, is how do we get a really good foot scan?
Fantastic. All right. Well, that takes us to our unpopular opinion segment where we get hot takes from the crowd, our listeners, and fellow sometimes guests get to contribute, but it's mostly hot takes from the crowd. We'll start with John first for the first one. Footballers care more about boot color than fit. John.
Oh, well, I don't think that's really the case. I think provided you've got in the podiatric setting, I think that the color they can get past the color. So I think that's a bit of a myth when it comes to the point of view of an injured person. Maybe with the general population, Sam probably know more. So yeah,
Yeah.
is the color that important, Sam?
No, but yes. To, to my 5-year-old, yeah, color is really important. If they're red, they make him run faster. Like, but to someone like myself, I don't care. But I don't want to be the only person on my team wearing black boots. So,
Mm,
like, you saw that, like color is important, but
Yeah,
it's really not important for the reason that we think it is. Like, still, comfort fit is at the top, and there's data on this. It's a paper by Sturzing in 2009 where it had a look what's important for footballers.
yeah.
The most important thing was comfort, and this was out of professional. And color was so down the list, it's not funny. But
yeah,
general population, oh, that looks sick. That's the first thing I see when I go up to the wall. Oh yeah, look at that. That looks fast. That looks wicked. That's the first thing that attracts me to the boot,
yeah,
is that color.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I like the whole part is you can have design features and everything, and you talk about the medical benefits. But what's going to make me go up on the wall, pick out that. Same with running shoes. It has to look cool.
Mm.
And that's what draws you when you're an average punter is it looks cool first. But then we get into the nitty gritty and yeah, it's comfort, it's fit and everything important. So yeah, I think
Unpopular opinion too. 3D
Orthotics.
scanning is a gimmick, and plaster casting and semi-weight bearing foam boxing is still more accurate. John.
Uh, well, I think the unpopular opinion is that it makes podiatrists lazy. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
do expand, do expand.
Well, I think it's an easy trap to fall into because it can lessen the barriers to actually taking a scan of someone's foot. But I think it's made it easier to prescribe orthotics, and I think as a podiatry as a podiatrist myself, I find that it's a lot easier, and I think it can be an easy out for certain clinicians, particularly when you don't know what else to do. So I think as an inexperienced podiatrist, it can make you a little bit lazy.
Sam?
yeah, like anything, like a good cast or a good impression is the most important part. But how we're taught to do it, or as you said, John, it can be easy. Oh, okay, sit up in C point, put your foot like that. But they're in a huge amount of forefoot varus. Don't worry, the lab will correct it later. Like, yeah. So whereas like you're taught to, okay, put your pressure under the fifth, make sure that you don't have too much for like a plantar flex first rate. Is it even? Like we do lose a lot of that. It's almost an art form. Like, but again, like it makes it so much easier. Like the patient buy in first aid, like going for a 3D scan, works really well. Like in terms of that printing aspect.
Mhm.
I still use the phone box. I really like it. But again, it picks on the person whether or not I want to have someone with an elongated arch position in terms of my correction, as opposed to say going for more like a non-weight bearing with a higher peak. Like that's the thing. But again, we have to make that clinical decision.
So
People
can,
argue,
can I expand on that for both of you? Right?
yeah,
3D scanning, how do you accommodate for heel expansion and soft tissue excursion, whereas a semi-weight bearing foam box or a plaster cast may accommodate for that? John.
I just ask them to have an expansion, and then I view them in when they're in. I take some measurements when they're in weight bearing versus when they're in non-weight bearing,
yeah,
so I kind of have an idea about how much expansion I'll have. So you'll get those people with really, at the risk of being rude, really fatty heels,
Yeah.
and they'll need a lot more expansion or a type of orthotic that requires a lot of rear foot correction.
yeah,
Whereas other people, you'll be trying to fit it into a narrow shoe and you won't need it. So I think there's a bit of nuance that comes from kind of knowing the type of device you're prescribing and what you're trying to achieve with it. But also, I'll always get them weight bearing and take measurements like the width of the foot across the heel to make sure that I'm not going to end up with something that their foot falls off the side of, which is a fairly common thing you see in orthotics. Sam?
So, mate, do it like when you measure heel expansion, like is it a full weight bearing heel expansion, or is it like do you get say like if it's a runner where they heavy heel strike,
Yeah.
do you get them in a heavier position to measure that heel expansion, or do you just go, oh yeah, what non weight bearing to weight bearing?
No,
Then
I'll get them to. So, like, if they're again, I'll kind of check the intended use of the orthotic. But if they're running and I know they're heel striking, then I'll get them to do something like, I don't know, stand on one foot or flex the knee and to at least achieve a bit of extra expansion. It's not perfect, but at least it gives me a little bit of an idea about what might happen in practice.
yeah, um, yeah. So Paddy, going back to it, non weight bearing, add a couple of mil, like based on a couple of things, like you're using a little bit of clinical judgment to see what happens. Like, what is it? Lab standard is 3 mil, isn't it, for most casts?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
I
essentially
think
what
so.
that's what we're being taught at uni, depending what it is. But it was always 3 mil with the lab to work its way with correction. But again, I like using a partial weight bearing. Like I'm actually really looking forward to getting a flat box scanner
Mhm.
so it can accommodate those positions.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay. I'm like you. I'm a semi weight bearing foam boxer because I find that's probably the most replicable process between clinicians. And even for 3D printing labs, I send a foam box in, and they will scan that foam box.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, here's a good one, John. Clinicians with the best Instagram pages aren't always the best clinicians. Has
Uh,
social media blurred the line between credibility and content?
uh, well, as someone who hasn't been on Instagram for 6 months, then I'm obviously going to say that I agree with that opinion. But obviously, I think it depends how you use it. Like, I think that there's a real, I think we do have social media guidelines, but yes, we need to make sure that the content we're out there is something that actually is providing information that is benefiting
Can,
people and not
can I
just
just add though, this
yeah,
this new generation, what is it called now, Z or X, Y, whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
and the uni students are coming through, right? And I shouldn't exclude the mature age students, but a lot of people are on social media.
mhm,
So, and it's probably the fastest way that they can consume content in a busy life, in a technical age, right? So I think this is like quite an important question in a sense that how do you see past bullshit?
mhm. You be I think you'd be very selective about the types of accounts and people you follow. And I think it can be easy to get drawn into the bullshit. I know Sam has a very good Instagram account that has high quality information. I think you discover the people that you trust, um, and you develop that community of people that where you find the information is most valuable to you. Sam,
So, mate, you don't want to treat your plantar fascia with standing on two kettlebells.
yeah,
Oh, what else is there? Like your liver toxins. I think we've all seen those ones.
mhm,
Yeah, it like I agree with you on this one, Paddy. Like it is the fastest way for us to consume information. Like TikTok, Reels, Instagram, like most people will have some form of feed. And like a lot of people will start to learn from that bit. And it's probably a bit of a shame because like when they say that you have a memory like a goldfish, like there was a study the other day saying that actually goldfish have longer memories than us because our attention span's down to barely anything. But again, it's a really incredible way for us to disseminate information and to take on it quickly. But again, like you need to have a really high bullshit detector. And like there's various parts out there, and like we won't go into it, but I think the Church of the Barefoot is a little bit interesting where you go, well, where's the science? Like, where's the study? Like, there was a statistic the other day that 0.05 of people in orthotics don't need, well, only need them.
Hmm.
Like, hold on, let's back that up a bit. Like, where did you come up with that absolutely pulled out your ass statistic? But then you start to engage that. But some of the things we go, well, actually, I really like what you're doing with your foot strength type work, but you haven't really told me the dosage. Like, when am I giving this to someone? What pathology am I working with it? Am I going to give it to every single person? And they'll go, oh, yeah, everyone needs it. But you go, but this person with a really reactive tendon or FHL tendon that you're trying to get big toe push downs for is actually going to struggle with that initially. So when do we use it?
Mhm.
But again, I really like social media. I'm probably on it a little bit too much. Like, but again, it can become a little bit addictive.
Okay. Last one. Heidi and Lyrebird or other artificial intelligence tools are making clinicians lazy. John.
uh, no, I disagree with that one. I think that they, when used well, they can make your job less. I guess they can allow you to spend more time doing what you're good at with your job rather than trying to remember every last piece of information that you've been told by a client, and particularly in the sports space. I'm sure you guys would have this. Often clients will not hesitate to tell you their entire life story. And in those cases, Heidi is fantastic at just sorting out some of that information you receive and making your life easier as a clinician. So it hasn't made me more lazy. I don't know about you, Sam, but I find AI tools have been really beneficial to my practice.
Yeah. Like we use AI in clinic and I love it, but it took a lot of time to train it. Like that's the big thing when we first used it. We went, well, what is this? Like it was called like PhysiTrack was coming out of FIZZY, and like it was picking up. It was mixing up left and right. It was assuming what exercises I've given to someone. Like, oh yeah, let's go through. Let's get you doing a single leg calf raise. Let's work on 3x8. Let's start to lift heavy. But then I'd come back and I'd say, podiatrist prescribed 2x20 toe scrunches. Like, I won't drop the F-bomb, but what the hell? Like, where did you come up with that? And it's completely the wrong foot. So what we had to do as a clinic, we actually had to go back and really train our AI to the way that we speak, to put in prompts. Please don't assume left and right until prompted. Like, these are the big parts that we had to look at. So I'm probably going to say, for a lazy clinician, it will make them lazier. But for a harder working clinician, it will make them more efficient.
Okay.
Like, this is the thing. Again, still writing notes. Like, the thing is, when it comes to letter writing, I think all patient reports, your foot is this into this. But you still have to put in a lot of work to make sure that it's up to date when they do an upgrade. They don't tell you what's going to happen with it, but you lose a lot of that information. But it constantly machine learns off you. And that's the thing I love. But again, it's only like any AI. It's only as good as what you put in.
Do you both get concerned that some of these software programs, even our practice management software programs, process data offshore and then sends it back to Australia and to save it into an Australian data center? Do you get concerned about those situations?
Yeah, a lot. It's something that we deal with. And it's, yeah, quite hard. Like, what happens if there's a data breach? What's happening? Like, what are we protected? Like, our insurance premiums by using AI have gone up. Like, these are the things. And like, again, we use patient notes because we trust where they store their data. Like, these are the things. But other programs out there, and like, it's really gross. Like, you go, well, where are you storing it? Like, there's not even a clear description on the website or the product where it's stored or who's accessing this information. So yeah, so like we try and work with AI or companies that will hold it in what we believe to be secure, and we trust them with this. But it's a bit like our phone company.
Sure, that's right.
Yeah.
That's the other part.
Maybe I'm too trusting, but I tend to think that I tend to think that privacy is something that's always been a thing that we've had to look at as clinicians, and there are AIs, the other more fundamental errors that people make in terms of sharing client data. I think just being mindful of the AI program is important, but also it's a part of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I feel as if it is something that most clinics by the end of the decade will be using it in some form.
I agree.
And like, it's not that it's going to take away jobs. It's going to change different parts. Like, it's something that we've got to adapt and work through, but we also have to set up our own safeguards for every person in our room. Like, there's a QR code up on the corner. There's, like we say, we are using an AI for this. This is the thing. If you'd like me to go through it, we do go through where it is and we go through those documents. But again, like, it's different parts when we're starting to look at AI and biomechanical data. Like, there's really only 3 places in the world where they can send the data through. I think one's over in Stanford.
Yeah.
That this is the other bit. But some of the apps that are coming out, I don't trust them. Like, that's the silly thing where you have a look at these running data and go, well, where's that going to go?
That's
Which
right.
company is that going to go to?
Well, I'm glad this one opened plenty of conversation, so I'm happy with
Mhm.
that segment.
We could do a whole episode on AI, I reckon.
That's right. All right, Sam. Future directions. I guess your future footprint. Where do you see the future of elite sports podiatry and just general musculoskeletal and sports and exercise podiatry heading in Australia? And where do you see our new generation of podiatrists heading in that avenue?
Well, yeah, good one. I think it's tough for our young generation coming through. Like if we're starting to get people who are wanting to go into elite sport, it's not glamorous. It's hard hours. It's a long slog to get to a position that's like for AFL, there's only really 18 positions. It's hard. But again, it's something that's incredibly fruitful and it's incredibly rewarding that you can be able to work within these spaces. And the big part, especially with new grads coming through, it's not to like probably a big part of universities and us as employers is not to dissuade people from being able to look into that higher part of podiatry. Like to think about, okay, what can we do with foot rehab? Okay, we should know shoes better than anyone else. We should know orthotics better than anyone else. And we have to set a high standard amongst ourselves. And the big part is probably getting behind one body, and that's probably SEPA to have a look at because we want to be able to grow this. It's such an important thing if we do band together. Like we don't want to go back to the late 90s, early 2000s where everything was so separate. Like that's probably the big one. It's like it's tough, but there's so much that can happen. Like we're starting to see it, the tide turn. Like we're starting to become involved in a lot more. Like the work of what Beck Moriarty did with AFL pods with Nikki Quigley, Sally Child. Like you're starting to have a look at what Matt Molliker, and I know there's all these names, but what they put through, like even Paul Fleet, like what he did in the early 90s to where the profession is now. That's huge. If we want to talk about someone more recently, Kurt Robertson, like you start to think about these names that are coming through and they're really starting to push sports podiatry along. Like, and that's probably the next thing of this generation is where we need to take it from what those individuals have done and take it further. Like to really own the foot, to really own orthotics, to really own shoes, to be that source of information where people can come and trust us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Sam. Final strides. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about you?
So, as Johnny mentioned before, I am on Instagram. I do have an Instagram handle of That Football Podiatrist, where I love talking about football boots, football medicine, and having a look at how do we make it more accessible. It's a fantastic code, especially soccer, but even Aussie rules. Like, there's 3 million people in Australia who will play some form of ball sport. Even then, it's growing. It's nearly 6 million, to be honest, out of an adult population. I am at Life Performance Sports Medicine. I'm more than happy for people to come in, say good day, and to look through. But yeah, that's my two big ones.
Sam, thanks for coming on to Soul Science. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, gents.